Greetings. This is an excerpt of a podcast that I did with Kurt. Hope you guys enjoy, and if you want to see the full episode, you can find the links in the comment below or check out my previous videos on the channel. Did you, at the time, did you ever envision that, or did you ever think, oh, I wish more competitive was in more foot, stuff like the pink slip stuff? And if it was, did you ever think, even if it does come to foot, it might be problematic if people pay more money to get a better team? Did you already think about that back then, or?
No, see, so this funny thing, right? So you're telling me about this competitive side, but I was foot since day one.
Yeah.
And these guys, I do remember like I said, maybe reading on it, the competitive, it used to be on head to head. So they used to play with Real Madrid against Real Madrid. And I looked at it and I'm like, whatever. And I hated head to head, right? It was so well. I started on a head to head, obviously, FIFA 09, right? Before Ultimate Team came out, because Ultimate came out in March or something like that. I hated it. It was so slow compared to Ultimate Team for me, and so yeah, I just preferred playing more Ultimate Team. In my head, I always knew if there was ever to be a competitive, it will end up on foot because it's obviously the fun. It's the best mode, and obviously compared to head to head, no one really wants to enjoy watching Real Madrid against Real Madrid. Can't even tell who the damn user is. It was literally just watching them too. But obviously, I do have a regret in the sense of not playing competitive even in those early years, because I guess again, if I was allowed, I don't know if I would have been. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I look at a lot of the names and those FIFAs. I was even better in those FIFAs than I was in the latest ones, because it was a lot quicker, even though head-to-head was slower, but still. So yeah, I do have a regret. I think I would have had about 6 FIWCs to my name, but it's what it is,
Yeah, for sure. So that's when we get into FIFA 16, which I believe there was Play Like a Legend in 15 and 16, but I think you were involved in 16, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Play Like a Legend was a tournament organized by Gfinity, so it was separate to the FIFA Interactive World Cup, the first taste of foot competitive, correct?
Yes.
How, once you get there, what was it like? How was the format? How'd you qualify? Prize pool?
Yeah, so again, being that the fact that it was foot, that's what obviously got me involved into it, because foot is the game mode that I am, like I said, I enjoyed playing. I enjoyed, well, not watching, but at the time Twitch wasn't really that huge, but it was starting to become a little bit big. So yeah, foot was definitely, to me, like I always told you, foot was the it was the best, and still to this day, you could say, one of, if not the best gaming mode, in my opinion, that there isn't pretty much any gaming. It's incredible. Maybe a little bit less so now, but at that time it was something else. So the fact that it was foot, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll get involved. But I was working a full-time job as well at the time. I was a betting. I used to make a lot of the odds for the sports and stuff over here in one of the companies. So obviously, it was never my intention to go pro on this, and then the thought never ever crossed. It was just like, okay, let me go on this, because I always knew I was good, right? I mean, I've been good for God knows how long, and I'll go on there, and yeah, I mean, obviously I'm competing. There was a few of these guys with some guy called a huge gorilla. I'm like, oh, a huge gorilla, who the bloody hell calls himself a huge gorilla? If you think I'm gonna lose to a huge gorilla, obviously, he ended up beating me, but yeah, those FIFAs, again, I look back and I always still mock him to this day. I tell him, it's funny looking back, because the pay-to-win aspect of you, mate, already came about even back then, looking at it. Listen, he was incredible and he was the best. But my God, this guy was running around with Hela and Vieira, and I'm there with my little Modric. But, that's how it was. That's how it was at the time. So it's Gfinity, fly to London, go over there. It was fun. It was completely different to playing online, but instantly that adrenaline rush, for sure, it's something that you can't get at home. So, yeah, I mean, that was the start, if you want to put it like that, for sure.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that, because, and that's going to be a bit of a theme. I want to give you, I guess, the chance to put it on record. There's a lot of times I feel like in your career that there were maybe losses, but I don't think the full context is always available. And in this case, I think, like you said, the context is it's kind of crazy to me that I didn't know this until recently when I was like looking this stuff up. You guys all had different teams. So like, how did he have Hullet, but you like? So he must have just had crazy pack luck, or did he just get lucky? Was it
No,
what?
absolutely not. So what used to happen back then was, again, obviously, yeah, it's incredible to look back on now because of everything now in esports is like, they all have their teams and stuff, and everyone has the same teams, give or take, unless you're playing from home, and some people can't quite afford to put that much money. But believe it or not, back then, so I think he used to play on FIFA 15. It wasn't just him. There was a few. I think even Agi at the time had like an insane team at the event. So yeah, at the event we used to play on our accounts. So we're playing on like our actual accounts, and these guys were getting the players. So I think Spencer and Gorilla in this case, he won something on FIFA 15, right? And they gave him like, it's kind of incredible looking, but they gave him like 3 players to pick, like 3 legends to pick for the next FIFA. So he got them like untradeable. And I actually got this, but it was at the very end after I finished second in FIFA 16 tournament. I got like a choice of like 9 or 10 icons, and they usually send them to my account. I think via Xbox or via whoever it was, which is funny looking back. It's kind of, I think they still do it to like professional football players or like, well, people that they like, I guess. They can give them like untradeable. And of course, this is where the whole saga started, didn't it, with the whole the fact that they were given prime icon, something like that, right, moments or whatever the hell they were to people, because they have the ability to give you these cards. So that's how Gorilla got his cards. So he had like he picked 3 in it. So he had like Vieira, Hele, George Best, I think, was the last one. Obviously, we couldn't get to that, to afford any of those players. I think I actually got to afford George Best just for the last one. So I did have a very good team compared to everyone else as well, but not quite on the same level as that. But no, listen, it sounds like excuses. Gorilla was incredible. There's a chance he probably would have beaten me even with equal teams. He was absolutely insane on those games. But it was obviously my first FIFA as well, so I am like trying to compete. So yeah, definitely learned a few things in that event as well.
To, I guess, for anyone who like didn't play back then, the difference between those top players then, so like if you would have played that exact same match in FIFA 20 with that team difference, would it have been even worse, or do you think it was like the same thing in terms of paying?
No, see, it's a bit of an interesting question, that, because on FIFA 16 there was no room to hide. Like, if you're playing bad and the other guy's playing good, because the game was so quick, you'd easily get smoked like 8-2. I think Spendy did end up beating me like over aggregate, like 7-2 on aggregate over 2 legs. And even when I used to play a lot of the opponents, yeah, it used to be like I can win by 5-6. Like, it used to be that certain. So in terms of a pay to win aspect, in FIFA 20, if I remember correctly, I would say it was more pay to win in FIFA 20 for sure. Like, the big players made a big difference as well, maybe bigger than in FIFA 16. But because in FIFA 20 you can't really beat 5-6, it's almost like, I would say, yeah, it's almost even. They equal each other out, yeah.